What's up, losers? Today I'm responding to some more posts from r/fatlogic. This is episode 12. How exciting! Before I begin, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who has watched, liked, and commented on my videos so far, as well as everyone who has subscribed. Starting a YouTube channel can be kind of daunting when you first begin, because it feels like you're just talking to yourself, haha. So I really appreciate all the support, because it tells me that there are people enjoying the videos, and it encourages me to keep making them. With all that mushy stuff out of the way, let's get right into today's posts.
What you think is healthy? Eating clean, working out, being thin. What is actually healthy? Eating enough, moving in a way that feels good, accepting your set point weight.
Okay, so let's break this post down point by point. The first contrast they attempt to draw is between eating clean and eating enough, which, if you think about it for a moment, isn't really a contrast at all. Like, the concept of eating clean isn't really about how much food you eat. It's about the nutritional value of the food. Eating clean in no way impairs your ability to also eat enough. Unless you're literally only eating, like, celery and carrots. Like, is the idea of eating nutritious foods so alien to these people that it breaks their brains? It's as if anything other than donuts and McDonald's is some austere gruel that couldn't possibly provide any kind of satisfaction. I don't even think that most fit people set the standards for the food they eat that high. Like, sure, some bodybuilders and hardcore gym goers will insist on only eating quinoa or steak or raw eggs or whatever. But most people just try to eat a varied diet and make sure they're not missing out on any important nutrients. Even fast food and unhealthy snacks are fine, so long as they are had in moderation. It seems to me that some of these fat people either overestimate how strict one's diet has to be in order to be thin, or deliberately convince themselves that it takes some insane Iron Man diet to be thin, because they want to justify their refusal to do it. Also, can we just think about how ridiculous it is to raise concerns around eating enough? Like, if you're obese, you probably don't need to worry about eating enough, haha. Is the idea that you're actually eating too much really that hard to swallow? I guess it must be. To the second point of moving in a way that feels good versus working out, what a silly comparison if you want to make the argument for fatness. Like, thin people can move in a way that feels good. If that takes the form of lifting weights at the gym, great. If it involves running on a treadmill, that's great too, but it can also be anything else they like, because thin bodies are, generally speaking, much more mobile and versatile than fat ones. Like, I get that the point here is basically to trash exercise and going to the gym, because fat activists fear the gym, like vampires fear sunlight, but the argument fundamentally doesn't work, because thin people have the option to do any other physical activity that they like, and do it better than fat people. Other than maybe sumo wrestling, haha. And finally, accepting your set point weight rather than being thin. I have to say that of all the talking points that the haze people like to trot out, set point theory might just be the worst. I can't think of many things worse than encouraging people with a crippling health issue like obesity to just accept it as something natural that they can't change. Because it's not true. You are not naturally obese. And you don't have to remain obese. It is perfectly within your power to change. But the more this sort of dogma gets parroted within the fat acceptance movement, the more difficult it becomes for people to believe that. And they just resign themselves to being obese forever. Which is really damn sad.
Just a reminder that fatphobia matters just as much as racism, homophobia, transphobia, sexism, anti-Semitism, you name it. If you think fatphobia is a lesser form of oppression, or not even oppression at all, then I kindly suggest unfollowing me. Thank you. #fatphobia. #worthy thoughts.
Okay, wow. It's one thing to complain about fatphobia in isolation, as something bad that happens. That shouldn't happen. And to a certain extent, I can even get on board with that. Like, yeah, a lot of people are mean to fat people. Needlessly cruel. They body shame them, and make them feel bad about themselves. And that's not okay. But to suggest that fatphobia is a form of oppression, of equal severity to racism, homophobia, transphobia, sexism, and anti-Semitism is just delusional and offensive. Like, let's be real, guys. The issues you go on about are things like the chairs being too small at the doctor's office, and not always being able to find clothes that you like in your size. Oh, and I almost forgot. The horrible experience of having to stand on a scale when you visit the doctor. Inconvenient, maybe. Upsetting, a stretch, but okay. But they don't really stack up to the oppression faced by those other marginalized groups now, do they? And I shouldn't even have to point this out, but I will anyway. If you don't want to be fat anymore, you can just lose weight, which is not an option for those other oppressed groups. I don't really want to go on about this one much more, to be honest. Comparing oppressions honestly just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So yeah, on to the next post, I guess.
You do not, ever, need to apologize, or feel shame, for having fat on your body. In fact, fat on the body is a vital organ that plays so many roles for our health, and for the longevity of our life. Diet culture is literally telling you to kill off a part of yourself, which clearly states that they are inhumane and life thieves.
First of all, the plural of thief is thieves, not thieves. But setting that aside, what kind of childish thinking is this post? Sure, fat is important. You would die if you didn't have any fat. That's a given. Everyone knows that. It's not some startling revelation, haha. The issue is not around the presence of fat. This is about the amount of fat. While everyone needs to have some amount of fat, no one needs to have, say, 200 pounds of fat. And having that much fat will lower your life expectancy and damage your quality of life. Calling weight loss killing a part of yourself is just a ridiculous overdramatization of a completely mundane act. Fat is not an essential part of who you are as a person. It's just fat. You will be the same after it's gone. Just a little lighter. As you say, fat is important because it plays a role in our health and life. So naturally, once you have so much fat that it's endangering your health and life, some of the fat is going to have to go. It just makes sense.
If some magical being could make you have perfect health, on the condition that you would forever be fat, and you wouldn't choose that option, I'm pretty sure your obsession isn't about health, sweetie. #fatphobia. #worthy thoughts.
What an absurd hypothetical. Like, I genuinely don't see the point of imagining a scenario like this. I guess the person who made this post is trying to prove something about thin people's motives. But like, why do thin people's motives even matter? Even if you were completely right, and thin people are all just superficial and vain, and only lose weight to look better, and not for health reasons, their health will still benefit from their existing at a lower weight. And yours will still suffer because of your obesity. Like, would you rather be superficial and healthy, or not superficial and unhealthy? I know which one I would pick. And I know which one I would encourage other people to pick. Is this what fat activists mean when they talk about fatness as a morality rather than a health issue? If it is, the fact that they have to invent a hypothetical world where everything is backwards to even make their point suggests that this is not an avenue of debate worth pursuing. Also, as a side note, even if you were obese but healthy, presumably you wouldn't be any more mobile than obese people are in the real world. So, in spite of the lengths that this person has gone to create a scenario in which being thin is bad, I'm still not sure that I wouldn't choose to be thin. Because I value, being able to move around and stuff, haha.
Obesity is a social construct, not a disease.
This one honestly seems like self-parody. Both the picture and the caption. But I am going to assume that it is genuine. What even is there to say? It just doesn't make sense. Because, like, in theory, I suppose you could argue that all diseases are social constructs, if you were that way inclined. But that's not what this post is doing. It's saying that diseases are not a social construct, but obesity is. Which doesn't really make sense. Like, obesity is a disease in the same way that other diseases are diseases. The excess body fat that causes one to be categorized as obese is real. And the health consequences that obesity can entail are very real. So, yeah, not sure what more to say about that one really. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the posts. What do you think about obesity as a social construct? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll force you to eat nothing but celery and carrot for a week, haha. Anyway, catch you later.